2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net is part of our continuing partnership with LifeBridge Sports Health Medicine Institute. That's 5 words. He just says LifeBridge. He is the concussion specialist, head trauma specialist, and always there to tell us some stories. He was actually on the sidelines for the state championships last week down at the Naval Academy. We welcome Dr. Kevin Crutchfield back on to check in with me and you. How are you, Doc? Happy holidays to you. And I know anytime Lamar Jackson goes into the tent, it gives me a topicality to talk to you because I don't know that most fans even saw what happened. And I know it was on the television. I was there at the game. But once again, concussion and head trauma. Here we go. Welcome to the National Football League, right?
Oh, it's such an intrinsic part of the game, and which is why we've instituted all these protocols now to keep the players safe. You know, we don't want them going back in if they've had a brain injury and can get a successive brain injury on top of that one. That can be a recipe for disaster.
Isn't there a part where, you know so much about this that it makes you cringe to some degree, things that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, not just in the league, but at every Pop Warner, he got buzzed, he got stung, he got a little ding, he got, all of those phrases that would lead now everyone, right? If my kid's out there and heads the ball wrong at soccer, I probably want to come see you, right? I mean, literally because it's in the media and we all know about it. 20 years ago, we didn't think like that, right?
No, we didn't. And, the truth of the matter is those complications that we all talk about, that everyone's worried about, they're not that common, thank God. So as I like to say to my patients when I teach them, I said, as a species, if we were stupid for days and weeks on end after taking a small hit to the head, we would have become someone's lunch and we never would have survived.
Fair enough.
So our brains reset pretty darn well. So it's the small minority of folks that get into these complications. Now, the risk is we don't know who those people are ahead of time, so we have to assume that everyone's at risk and protect everyone from those complications.
Well, I remember playing Little League, and I remember, standing on the on-deck circle and taking a bat to the head when I was 8 years old. And, your parents are like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you dizzy? How's your head doing? I think in 1976, that gets treated a lot different than in 2018 by literally every parent, every coach, every umpire, every referee, everywhere, right? I mean, if there's one thing that the concussion movie and the NFL really putting its head in the sand for a long time about this, that in the modern era, I don't think any parent sends a kid to do anything physical, maybe not even things that are not sports related that could involve your head or your neck. You go to the iFly facility, wherever it would, anything that would be physical, we're all much more aware of it, probably because of these kind of conversations that I'm having with you right now, right?
Well, I wish I could agree with you 100%. And I'm not going to. There are still the really, for lack of a better phrase, aggressive parents that think their kid's going to get a full scholarship to a D1 school or is going to be the next star of that sport that are still pushing to get the kid back in. Is he okay? Can he go?
He's got to play, right? He's 13. He's got states this weekend. He's got to play, right? No.
So, I helped write and get passed the concussion bill down in Annapolis. And when I first started, I thought, we got to protect these kids from these aggressive coaches, blah, blah, blah. You know what? By the end of it, nothing could be further from the truth. The coaches wanted the legislation. The athletic directors wanted the legislation to help them end the conversation of a parent screaming at them in the hallways of the school in front of other parents when they wanted to keep the kid out because the kid was still hurt and the parents wanted the kid to play.
Because the kid's a junior and he's being recruited?
The matter, Nestor, is it ended up becoming a law to protect the kids from their own parents.
Wow. Dr. Kevin Crutchfield is here. He is at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute. They're at Foundry Row in Owings Mills. I could wax on about all the cool stuff you do, but I'm going to let you give me the elevator speech. Tell everybody how this facility came to be. It is a new facility. Everyone's seen Cal Ripken up on the billboards, and I think even a lot of folks are familiar with you from the other media work you've done here, as well as Dr. Craig Bennett, who's been doing orthopedics for a long time. But this is, I don't want to say a new concept, but certainly for Owings Mills and for the suburbs and in what you're trying to do here in the middle of a heavy sports season. I mean, you were down at football state championships. We got wrestling going on now, basketball getting cranked up here again. We're going to have lacrosse before too long. After the holidays, we'll be doing that in baseball. And I know you want everyone out in the county to know that you're there, quite frankly.
Well, no question. If you're an athlete and you're in season and you get a concussion, which is a blow to the head that causes neurologic symptoms, for lack of a better definition, we'll get you in within 48 hours. We want to get you on the path to recovery as fast as possible. Now, the vast majority of concussions are going to heal up on their own. So it may just be that you don't really need a guy like me, but we get you in early. But if you've got something else going on that's missed by the majority of other programs out there because they really focus on just concussion, and we're a comprehensive overview of the nervous system in our program, we will start instituting treatment so that those concurrent injuries get better faster, and you're not lingering for months and months with symptoms and having to pull your kid out of school, let's say. I can't tell you, when I get the kids 6 months in, they're already getting homeschooled, they've been pulled away from their friends, and they have a concurrent injury that was missed because they didn't get a comprehensive evaluation up front.
What's the danger on that part of it that you get a ding, as we would say in the old days, and you don't come see you? I would always think about nausea and spinning and dizzy and light sensitivity, all basic things that I guess if you Googled it, right? I got hit in the head. What are the symptoms? That would be the first thing that would come up. What is the long-term? I mean, I shouldn't say do you. I'm sure you do see someone that a month ago something happened and they finally have decided to come to the doctor because for a month they've had any number of these sort of things. That's the danger, right? Like not diagnosing this thing sooner than later, right?
Well, there's a couple of issues. It depends on, we always say, the mechanism of injury. And I know we talked about this briefly before, but you can have a pretty significant concurrent neck injury and a high neck injury. You know how we've broken down ankle sprains now to a low ankle sprain and a high ankle sprain? There are neck injuries, and there are lower neck injuries that everyone looks out for, and then there's high neck injuries that very few people look out for. And the danger there is that lateral instability of the high two cervical levels can tear into the vertebral artery and literally cause a brainstem stroke. And I have seen that a couple of times in my career. So it always spooks me when I got a full collision sport athlete who's got that level of the spine rocking a little bit. If they get hit hard again, it can be catastrophic.
Well, I know Zach Orr, and I don't know the exact thing with him, but that was sort of the word on him, there was something that he was one hit away and certainly one pen and one signature away from probably a $10 or $15 million sort of deal at the end of 2 years ago. I mean, that was an incredible thing, and I don't know that we've seen a whole lot of that around here in 25 years of football where a guy in the prime of his career, a doc says, you just can't play anymore, and all the docs sort of agree with that after he'd been playing, right?
Well, correct. Well, if you never get an MRI scan of the spine, because I always jokingly say there's two kinds of football players, beaters and beatees. And if your whole career you've been a beater because you're bigger and faster than everyone else, then you finally get to competition where it's equal, and on certain plays, you're now a beatee. Then we start to unmask some of the physical problems that you had that you were able to compensate for because you were bigger and faster than everyone else.
Dr. Kevin Crutchfield is here, and a wealth of information out at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute, the future of healthcare, right there with you up in Owings Mills at Foundry Road. You can find Cal Ripken out on the billboards, a state-of-the-art facility. We'll have Dr. Craig Bennett on next week talking some orthopedics. I want to talk about Lamar just for a moment and going into the 10 and the amount of punishment that he's taken here. I know you're a Raven fan. I know you're a football fan as well as a medical man here. You certainly, when you see him going into the tent like that, just some thoughts of, you've been down on the field, and I know you had I don't want to say a tragedy, but certainly a very traumatic incident happened in your presence last week with the high school. But this happens every week on every field, and I think now we're all watching Lamar Jackson because he is the team right now and the quarterback, and he's sort of a heat-seeking missile as a football player. It feels like this isn't going to be the first or last time that he takes a cleat from his own teammate in the head and winds up in protocol.
Well, if you get hit, and there's some degree of transfer force to the head, and you come out and you have symptoms, you're going to go in the tent for the basic screen. The basic screen is essentially what you said earlier about what we used to do. How you feeling? Are there any symptoms? Can you tell me where you are? And if there's any suspicion that there's a concussion, that's when they must go into the training room for the full protocol. So they go into the tent, and a lot of times there's something else going on. So you don't know. Did he get mud in his eye? There's other crazy things that can happen on the field of competition, and what looks like something ends up to be something totally different. But the players didn't want the watchful eye of the camera zooming in on them when they're injured.
Yeah, how do you feel about the tent? Is that something that they should take them off the field instead of in? I mean, it's a little weird. I've always thought that the referee going into the little booth to look at the replay was a little weird. But the way they stop the games now and the way that they put the tent right on the 50-yard line, in all of these facilities, wouldn't it just behoove them to take them down underneath? It's a little weird to me.
Well, they want to be able to do a rapid sideline assessment to get the player back in right away if they're fine. And they just don't want it all over the media. And I think the teams wanted it because you're giving the other team information. They got spotters in the booth watching the TV. Oh, so-and-so's got an ankle injury. Let's go after him the next play. So I think it's more of keeping your cards close to your chest when you're playing poker with the opposition than anything else. You don't want them to know where your wounds are or they'll capitalize on them. And the 10 on the field, if you want to get the players back in rapidly, it takes time to go down and into the training room and back out. You're missing, a couple series of downs if you're perfectly fine, where you could go back in right away if you're cleared right away.
Well, how about Marshall Yonda last week, right? I mean, with the docs and being angry because he had to go in and he apologized afterward and all that. But that is something as a doc I'm sure you've dealt with a few times in the field of battle where you're like, hey, you're hurt. No, I'm not hurt. And I mean, I laugh. It's not funny at all because you've been down there in that. But we've seen that happen since the last time you and I got together.
Yeah, I mean, the players want to play. The reason they perform at the level they do is they are incredibly competitive, and they want to get back out there. They want to get back out there for themselves, but more importantly, they want to get back out there for their teammates. They feel like they're letting their team down when they're not on the field with them, and that's a very strong and powerful motivator. So that's why these guys are, they're emotional about it. It's a high-intensity game, and there are high emotions.
It's
and you take someone as competitive as Marshall Yonda out, and recently coming off an injury, of course he's going to be hot to go.
Well, I hope they're hot to go this week in Kansas City. We got some football ahead. Dr. Kevin Crutchfield is here. He is from LifeBridge Sports Health Medicine Institute. That is a mouthful for everyone. Doc, I always appreciate you guys coming on. I'll talk to Dr. Craig Bennett next week about some orthopedics. I still got my elbow issue. You're not the guy for the elbow. You just check my head, right?
I'll do your head. And by the way,
enough.
Getting whacked with a baseball bat as a kid explains everything.
I knew I shouldn't have told you about that. Here I go. I'm going to be in protocol before it's all over with. Hey, Doc, I appreciate you. We'll send everybody out to LifeBridge, and I'll talk to you again before Christmas. Always a pleasure to check in with you.
You have a great day.
Dr. Kevin Crutchfield, one of the great comedians in the medical practice as well, and having fun with me. LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute is in Foundry Row in Owings Mills. They're a game changer for local athletes. The new game plan for sports-related injuries, and backed by the surgeons and doctors like Dr. Crutchfield, who really know pro athletes and have been doing this a long, long time. And hey, Cal Ripken looks good up on the billboards. We are happy to have our relationship with them. Make sure you're keeping them in mind when you're out in the suburbs. If you're a weekend warrior, you got a child that plays sports, a neighbor that plays sports. If you need your head checked, wherever it is, LifeBridge Sports Health Medicine Institute. I'm Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Everything we're doing here in advance of the Kansas City game in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.